Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tronage, and today we are going to talk about the SQ12. We're going to put it through its paces. We're going to see how it compares to the SQ11. Then we're going to take it out for a little bit of a flight test. We're going to measure the field of view. Stay tuned. Alright, so the SQ12, as you may or may not know, I did a review for the SQ11, and you can check the video up in the cards. I wasn't so pleased with it. I loved the concept of a very small camera, very lightweight. You could purchase a little TPU squishy mount for it. You pop this, little guy into this mount, strap it onto your 3-inch quad, and you have a way to record HD video. However, the biggest shortcoming to this SQ11 was its lens. Specifically, its field of view was very narrow, and it just didn't work out well for the goals that I had for its use. Now, I've since purchased, little lenses, little replacement type lenses, but that's going to require a mod. It's not designed for that lens. It'll be a whole topic of another video when I actually get to doing that project. But in the interim, I was recommended by one of my viewers to check out the SQ12, so I went on and purchased one. All right, so we're going to follow our usual formula for review. So I'll pull that in now. So let's do the unboxing first. So I'm going to bring you in close, and we'll do the unboxing, because as always, I see it first when you see it first. So come on in close, let's check it out. All right, so here we have the SQ12. Just received this from Banggood. And let's open this box and see what we have inside. Box is nice matte finish. Nothing too fancy, but nothing too basic. A little tight to get open. Okay, we have a standard looking just blister type thing. Okay, so we have a little instruction manual. Okay, little meaning long. Let's put that aside. Next, I'm going to save the camera for last, so we'll go into the little bucket here of accessories. Let's see what we got. Okay, so it looks like we have basically a very similar set of accessories for the SQ11. We have a charging cable. So it's basically USB to charge the camera. This end goes to your camera. This is for USB. And this is so you can have a video out. So I guess you can hook it up to a monitor or something along those lines. And then I believe this is a very similar little mounting system like the SQ11 had. Those are the accessories. And then the camera itself. Little bag. All right, so I brought the video in a little bit tighter here so we could get a little bit better view of the two cameras side by side with the SQ11 and the SQ12. And you can see they're pretty much the same size, maybe just marginally a hair bigger, the SQ12 is. The one thing I do like, the buttons, as you can see, are a little bit different. This is more like a flimsy rocker kind of thing that's stuck on here, while these are actually nice, clean buttons. And the lens is clearly, this is like a pinhole lens. This is actual nice lens that gives you a little bit of wide angle. Here's the TPU case that was for the SQ11. So I'm going to try to shove the SQ12 into it, see how that goes. My feeling is probably going to be very tight because it's not meant for this camera, and this camera is a little bit bigger. But it is going in pretty easy. This part around the lens here is going to be a little bit of a challenge. There. So it does go in. It is stressing right here. I don't know how long that's going to last because it is clearly stressing it. After a couple crashes, it might break at these points. I don't know. So for size comparison, here's the Mobius Mini that's been mounted on my quad. You can see it's pretty much, this is still going to be smaller than this. And spec-wise, the Mobius has a smaller battery. This is only spec'd out to run for a half an hour, if I remember correctly, and this is spec'd out to run for about an hour. So before I go and do some flights with this, let's just talk about the quality of the camera from what I see. And basically, I'm pretty impressed. It feels very solid. It doesn't feel like it's going to break easy. They've improved the buttons so they don't feel flimsy. They improved having that seam that ran all the way around with a sticker covering it. So now it's just basically clipped on nice. I feel like it's pretty solid. Now, whether it'll last crash after repeated crash with a quad, that's yet to be discovered. But we'll have to see. But overall quality, I'd say, is pretty darn good. While we're talking quality here, let's also talk the lens field of view. Since I measure it with the same graph and I measure it with the same method, then every time I measure a lens, maybe the numbers may not be the same, but at least the relative comparison will be the same. And when I measured this, here's what the graph looked like. And you can see it's almost 120 degrees field of view, which is huge. So out of all of these cameras, this one has the theoretically largest field of view of them. So that makes me really pleased. All right, I'm back. Finally had a chance to fly this a little bit. Got both cameras mounted onto the HGLRC XJB. Looks a little janky, check it out. Basically, just zip tied it to the underside of the Mobius, but it actually worked out really well because I was able to get the same camera angle and the same mounting essentially so that I could really do a side-by-side comparison between these two cameras. Obviously, this is a lot of extra weight that I'm putting on a quad and expecting it to still perform and do stuff. So later on when we're comparing the two videos, keep that in mind when I'm flying, that I'm now carrying two cameras on this little itty bitty quad. So it's not about the flight, it's more about the quality of the videos for each camera so you can do a good comparison between them. It felt really good getting out there and flying though, because as a little spoiler alert, I actually went out flying and had a really bad crash yesterday. Like, how bad? Like that bad. Like broken leg, broken motor, lots of broken. What is this? Oh, another video, another time. But anyway, back to the camera at hand, the SQ12 pros and cons in comparison really to the Mobius Mini. So the pros are, this camera is small, it's lighter weight, it has a little bit better battery life. Like the Mobius Mini, I was only really able to get about 9 minutes of battery life before it kicked out on me. Now, I thought I had it fully charged. Maybe I was mistaken. Maybe because it was cold out, the batteries don't last as long. That's a known fact. So maybe it just got cold and that's why it didn't last as long. But I got about 9 minutes out of it before it went dead. The SQ11 worked for probably, I would say, at least 15 minutes. And it's still, I can turn it on and record right now. So I didn't really do a stress test battery-wise with it. The Mobius is advertised as a half-hour battery life, and the SQ12 is advertised as a 1 hour battery life. So theoretically it has twice as much power. So if the Mobius lasted 9, then I could predict this maybe it will last 18 to 20. The cons. Well, first let's do the I don't know whether it's a pro or a con. The lens is actually very wide angle. If that's what you're after, then this is great for you. If that's not what you're after, you're looking for a more traditional field of view, then the Mobius Mini would be the kind of lens that you'd want to have. So it's sort of like a toss-up, which is better, which is worse. I don't know whether it's better or worse, it's more what you're looking for, but check out the videos at the end and you can see the difference of what I'm talking about. Now the cons though. The cons are that this is just not as good of a camera. The actual sensor or the electronics or the whatever you want to call it is just not as good. What I mean by that is it only captures at 30 frames a second. The Mobius can do much higher frame rates. It can do up to 60 frames a second at 1080p. It does not have the dynamic range that the Mobius Mini does. If you point it at the sun, you'll see here's some screenshots. You point it at the sun and it puts a black dot where the sun is, while the Mobius Mini is able to handle that no problem. When you come off of a shot that's at the sun and you then point to the ground, the SQ12 just takes a long time to recover from that. It stays dark, it stays dreary. The Mobius Mini looks vibrant and beautiful color. The SQ12 also does like a stepping effect when it's going through these. It'll be like dark, lighter, 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 lighter. Like you'll notice it kind of stepping through the gradient. While the Mobius just, you don't even, it just kind of fades. So it's a much smoother transitions, and it just feel like it takes a better picture. It just looks better. It's more appealing. I don't know if it's also the lens playing a part in that, but as far as color goes and as far as the raw image, I think the Mobius definitely takes a better image. Side note, you'll notice that I did have the SQ12 mounted upside down. When I showed that, I'll show it again. The SQ12 is mounted upside down so I could have access to these buttons. The SQ12 does not have like a firmware thing like the Mobius does where you can hook it up and program it from your computer. So I have to manually flip that over in post-processing of the video. Don't anticipate mounting it upside down and getting your video coming out right ways up. You have to do that yourself manually. When you see the videos later on, the only thing I'm gonna do to them, so this way we can compare apples to apples, I'm gonna take the raw footage and put it on here and hit play. The only thing that I'm gonna do to them is I'm gonna rotate the SQ12 to be the right way up. I'm not gonna do any color grading, I'm not gonna do any color correcting, I'm not gonna do any post-processing to them whatsoever. I'm just going to play them. One other con about the SQ12, and this is kind of nitpicking at this point, but why not, is that it doesn't default to 1080p for its recording mode. So for the Mobius, you can have presets, and the first preset I have defined as being 1080p at 60 frames a second. So I turn it on and I hit record and it goes, and that's it. I don't have to click anything else or do anything else. The SQ12, in order to record in 1080p, you have to put it into 1080p mode, which means you have to turn it on by holding the button for 3 seconds, then the blue light turns on. Then you have to click the mode button once, so then it turns purple, or as it says in the instructions, the blue and red light are lit. And then I click the power button once on a short click, and that starts recording, and the blue light turns, or the purple light turns off, and it's then recording. So it's not very user intuitive how to use it, and it's weird when it's recording, the light turns off. On the Mobius, while it's recording, the light's blinking, so you know it's doing something. This kind of looks dead when it's recording, but it is actually recording. So the user interface of this I don't feel is very good at all. The Mobius Mini has a whole software that you plug up and you can program, you can do your settings, you can synchronize the clock, whole bunch of stuff. So that was really well thought out, and I enjoyed the user experience of the Mobius, not so much on the SQ12. All right, so who's it good for? All right, so here's your deal. If you're flying something bigger, like one of these guys, this is not for you. What you want to be flying is a GoPro session. Now, if you're flying something like a 3-inch, I think on my 3-inch, I'm gonna keep the Mobius on here because it's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit bulkier, but this quad easily handles that on there. And I'm gonna keep this on here because I think it's a better camera, and I feel like this quad has such performance with these props that I put on here that it flies like a 5-inch quad. So I want it to have as best footage as I can, and that's why I'm gonna stick with the Mobius Mini on here. So if you're flying like the HGLRC XJB or a 3-inch style quad, maybe even a 4-inch quad, and you want a small camera, Mobius Mini is what you're gonna be going for. So where does the SQ12 fit in? I'm thinking I might try to work this onto my Aurora 90 that I put in the Firer frame, because it's smaller, it's lighter, and being a smaller quad, maybe I can pull it off with this. So that's gonna be subject of another video. I think it might work in that scenario. So I can't guarantee it, but that's where I could see this really shining. Or if you don't want a Mobius. If you don't want a Mobius and you have a 3-inch, you can put this on here. There's no rules against that. A 90 or 100 millimeter quad, I feel like this would probably be perfect on, because lighter weight, smaller, kind of fits the profile of the quad essentially. And recommended, would I recommend this? I'm gonna say yes, but with hesitation. If I had to recommend one of these, and only one of these, I think I would still recommend the Mobius Mini. However, if this doesn't work for your build, if you don't want to get this guy, then I would say this makes a great second place, runner up, go out and get it kind of a thing. This one, just the Mobius had a better user interface. It has the software to update the firmware on it. It just has a more robust experience. The camera is better, the quality is better, but with that comes size and weight. This is cheaper, smaller, more compact. It's kind of just hit the power button, hit record, off you go, and hope for the best. All right, and that brings us to our flight footage section here. So essentially what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna do a split screen. I'm not gonna do a side-by-side because they get too small and you're not really seeing what the quality of the video is that's coming out of these cameras. So what I'm gonna do instead is I'm just gonna play one straight through and I'm gonna play the other straight through. Remember, this is not about the flight. It's not about the tricks. It's not about that kind of stuff. It's more about just how the camera is recording, how the camera looks. It's about how it reacts to the sunlight and then the shadows and all of that. So I'm basically just trying to whip myself all over the place to get a lot of fast motion, to see how the picture quality is, whether there's a lot of motion blur, how that affects things, and to let you make your own decision which camera you think produces the best video. All right, so first up is going to be the Mobius Mini. All right, now we're gonna play SQ12. So as I said, in my own opinion, I think the Mobius Mini had a better quality, better picture, better dynamic range, and overall just a better look to it. But that's my opinion. Your opinion may be completely different. You may have watched those videos and said, wow, that SQ12, I'm gonna go buy 3 of them right now because I love the way that that looks. If that's the look you're going for, great, go get one. I'm not gonna stop you, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. We're all entitled to our opinions. I just think the Mobius Mini is maybe a better camera, but it's also bigger and it's also heavier. So you have to weigh the pluses and the minuses when you're choosing a camera. And what's right for you? Well, guess what? Only you know that answer. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, you really should subscribe. I'm always posting new content. If you'd like to help support the channel and get access to giveaways, raffles, and other exclusive benefits, consider joining the Tronage family on the Patreon page. Here's some videos that you might be interested in. This is the latest one that I posted, and this one I think you might just like. Go check them out.